Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whale Nerds podcast. This is episode 55, and this is Katlyn here recording with our special guest, Jamie McWilliams, today. And Eric and Slater are actually working, so since Jamie and I are not, we decided we would make a podcast episode. So, hi, Jamie.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because we've only been talking about it for forever.
I was thoroughly convinced you were never going to let it happen. You were just like saying it so that I would feel good, but
no, it's not true. We just, this year has been like a whirlwind. It's been wild to say the least. I think we're going to try and get you on it when I was in Hawaii.
Yeah.
What a time that was.
That spontaneous trip to Hawaii that one time, end of January. That's what that was.
So, some of you probably already know that listen to the podcast regularly that Jamie and I are friends and that she and I have gone on quite a few whale adventures together. But our little how we met story is I went out to Massachusetts in the end of 2017 before the Halifax Marine Mammal Conference. And I originally went to actually go visit another colleague of ours. And Jamie was on the boat when I went out on the Hurricane 2 with Cape Ann Whale Watch. And I was like, this girl seems nice. And,
and then our boat broke. And every trip you were supposed to go on with us got canceled. Yeah. And I was like, well, now I'm not working. You want to hang out?
Yeah, so we took the off days from the water and went on some adventures. And then you guys came up to Briar Island, too, in Nova Scotia before the conference and met Jody and I.
Yeah,
watching in the Zodiacs.
That because first of all we went whale watching together, but first of all because the day that I was driving, which was the day prior, you guys got incredibly mugged, and you sent me some whale selfies that your whale selfies will always be better than mine, and it's tension in our relationship forever.
If we have one tension in our relationship, it's the whale selfie game.
Yeah, yours is way better than mine. It's true. If you have never seen any of Katlyn's whale selfies, tell her to send them to you. It should be a Patreon perk, honestly. Like
I should just upload them all to Patreon. I have so many from this summer. But I think that will be our like little icon for the episode is because we have some together too.
Oh, do we? Because usually you just take them with like Johnny or one of my interns or.
Also, the best one we could have taken, you would not turn around for because you were too busy staring at the whale.
I was looking into the eye of a whale. It was like 2 feet in front of me.
So basically Jamie and I have been whale friends for quite a while now, and we actually worked together this summer, which is fun.
Oh, wait, I think the best part about our relationship is, so we met at the end of 2017 and we talked, on and off throughout the year like friends do. And then in 2018, we went to ACS and I drove up to stay with you. And then I was like, you want to get matching mola tattoos? It's like the second time that we hung out.
We know each other. Third, but yes.
Sometimes when you know.
Yeah. You know? And then my good friend, Sammy Chang, who now has her own little art thing going on because she just graduated with her scientific illustration certificate. She designed the mola tattoo for us. So, yeah.
Shout out to Sammy.
So nice. Sammy Chang. So, typically with guests, what we kind of go through is like, how'd you get into marine science? Like, what's your background? So right now you work for Cape Ann Whale Watch as the education director and the main naturalist. And you started at Cape Ann as an intern. So if you want to talk a little bit about like what led you down that path.
Okay. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Just kidding. No, so I always had loved like the ocean and whales and marine life, like my entire life, right, growing up. And I don't know, but I was born in Dallas, Texas, so I'd actually like never lived by the ocean before. And so I was like starting to apply to like colleges. I started at community college for 2 years, and I was like starting to apply to universities, and I was like, I want to make sure that this is exactly what I want to do before I like spend all this time and money and stressed. And so I had graduated high school a semester early. And so I was like kind of ahead. And so I had like literally just Googled whale internship. And I found a couple different opportunities. And so I sent in an application for the program run on Cape Ann Whale Watch. And it's funny because I remember it was like the end of my fall semester. So it must have been like around December when I mailed in the application. And then I didn't hear anything until like the middle to end of March. And so like I just kind of assumed throughout that whole time that like I didn't get it, or and then I was like sitting in my English class and I got a call from a number up here and I was just like, I gotta take this. And so then I interviewed and I took the position. So I moved up here in the end of June, 1st of July, somewhere around there in 2012. And then I stayed until the middle of November. So I stayed until the season was completely done. And yeah, so like the first time I was ever on a big boat, like I grew up on the lakes in Michigan. So I was on like, boats that would pull me tubing and stuff. But my first time on a big boat, my first time being on the ocean besides a dive trip, and my first time seeing a whale was all right here on Cape Ann Whale Watch. And so I did the internship and I was just like, yeah, I love this. Like I could do this forever. And so I moved back to Dallas and kind of worked for a few months to gather up some money. Ended up taking my university career to Texas A&M Corpus Christi and went to school and got involved at the Texas Sea Life Center like immediately after I moved down there. And so I, started volunteering there a lot. And so that was like in the fall of 2013. And then in 2016, I was ready to get back into the marine mammal world. And so I planned with my friend Erin to go to the American Cetacean Society conference, that was in Monterey that year. And on a whim, I ran into Cindy, who was like, she's been the education director. She had been the education director at Cape Ann Whale Watch. And so she was like my supervisor when I was an intern. And so I ended up on the boat with her for the all-day whale watch. And so her and I started talking, and I started picking her brain about like, hey, these are things I want to do at the Sea Life Center education wise. Like, what do you think? And by the end of our all day whale watch, she had told me like that the naturalist she thought was going to not come back the next year in 2017. And so she gave me information about applying. And so I applied and I interviewed, and here I am now. So yeah, I was the full-time naturalist for my first 2 years. And then at the end of my second season, Cindy retired from being the education director. So that's when I got that little bump. And I don't really know that I plan on going anywhere anytime soon. So
So I forgot that you had gone to that 2016 conference because I was like, because Monterey was hosting and I was on the Monterey ACS chapter board at the time, I was like part of like all the logistics planning. I also still was working at Monterey Bay Whale Watch. And so like I planned that whale watch trip, but didn't actually go on it because after I sent you guys off the dock, I like ran back to the hotel to finish doing all the check-in prep. So like we kind of just like,
I was like, it's so funny to me that like we missed each other then.
Yeah. And like I knew Cindy at the time and like, but I wasn't in most of the talks. I was like in the check-in table and like running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And yeah. So I probably checked you in and didn't even realize like.
Yeah.
Because I remember there being a bunch of Cape Ann people there, and I kept thinking, like, wow, they always travel so well for conferences. Like, it's amazing.
Well, I think especially, like, for the ACS, I mean, for SMM too, but I don't know how to turn my notifications off on my laptop for my text messages, so I'm sorry, listeners, but I'm not really sorry to Katlyn. I'm sorry, listeners. I'm just kidding. This is part of our relationship. I'm just a jerk all the time. Yeah, so I think ACS is such a great opportunity, especially for students, because I just feel like can sometimes be very student focused. It's way less intimidating than SMM, you know what I mean? So like for this year, I think I had like 12 interns from the past 4 years that I was trying to bring. So I think that it's such a great opportunity. So I always like to make my interns go. Well, I don't make them. I offer it to them as much.
So, I think we'll bounce around, like backtrack a little bit in your story and then kind of like end back on the East Coast stuff. But so you mentioned tripping over my words. You mentioned interning and volunteering at the Texas Sea Life Center, or I guess volunteering is a better word. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what is the Sea Life Center? Like, what has your role been there over time? That kind of stuff.
The Texas Sea Life Center is a wildlife rehabilitation facility and education center in Corpus Christi, Texas. So essentially our main goal is to take in sick and injured sea turtles and birds and native reptiles. We don't do native mammals like in rehab, but we do just about everything else. So we do like tortoises and snakes and stuff like that. But so our main goal is to take them in, rehabilitate them, and then release them back into the wild. So in the same sense, we are not funded by anything except for donations, and now we offer tours. And so that's like, so when you go on a tour, we have a bunch of like non-native education animals and some natives too, who have come to us through rescues over time, whether it be like owner surrenders because, you know, people don't want their reptiles anymore, or we work a lot with animal control, or if it is a native animal, then it's something that isn't releasable back into the wild. So when you come on a tour, you get to meet all of those guys. You get to see our sea turtle patients who are in care and kind of hear about our mission and learn about the animals and stuff like that. It's a really hands-on activity. So that's what the Sea Life Center is. Now, the Sea Life Center opened to the public and got their permits and started taking animals about a month before I actually started volunteering there. So I've really been there to do a lot of stuff from the ground up. Like I have helped build every enclosure. Like I remember when we got our first sea turtle patient, our first sea turtle tank. So now I still go back in the wintertime, and my role when I'm there is I kind of like am the volunteer coordinator day to day. Like I give people tasks and, you know, make sure everything gets done, but I'm also like a rehab assistant, I guess you could say. Like I'm in charge of the day-to-day care and medications and all of that kind of stuff for all the animals, especially if the director isn't there, Amanda, who's also my best friend. And I manage all the social media. I am also the education director there. So I work a lot with my friend Misty to plan camps and education programs and stuff like that, which COVID has been really hard for us. But one thing that it did allow for is more time to focus on the education stuff. So that's things that we're really looking forward to launching more in the future. So yes, I kind of like wear a lot of hats there. but you know, everything from dealing with the animals day to day to the people and just taking that opportunity to, I don't know, just educate. It's like my favorite thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I know, like you'll send me pictures of like birds and like things they've ingested or like being wrapped in fishing line and that kind of stuff. So
one time I
get a lot of hands-on stuff going on.
Oh yeah, one time I pulled a hook out of a pelican's butt. That's one of my favorite stories. I've had to climb power lines to get pelicans and other animals, mostly pelicans, who have been like, you know, like if there's a lot of line on the power lines, they'll like fly into it and get stuck. So you have to like cut them off and disentangle them. And yeah, one time we had a pelican who was like super weak and weird, and he regurgitated a balloon. And then the next morning he came in and he had died. And so when we did the necropsy, we found a water bottle inside of his stomach, just like a full send whole water bottle.
Yeah, I remember seeing the pictures of that. Like it was impacted by like a full 16.9 fluid ounce.
Yeah.
Single-use water bottle.
Full water bottle. Anyways, we get to do a lot of fun things too, though. You know, like we get to raise a lot of baby birds, which is like one of my favorite things. And plus there's my possum Jackson. And if you thought that you were going to let me talk about the Sea Life Center and I was not going to mention Jackson.
No, I knew you were going to go there.
Yeah.
So, okay, but you guys don't rescue small mammals. So how does the Sea Life Center have the opossum?
So our possum Jackson, I have to like throw my watch across the room because Johnny won't stop walkie-talkieing me.
Johnny's the captain that we work for.
Sorry, I just like say everything that comes out. It just is no filter. So Jackson is such a wonderful being. Jackson is a Virginia possum. He's like a really cool red phase, so he's not like super white and gray like other possums. He's beautiful. But so basically we work a lot with animal control, and Jackson was confiscated. Animal control had gone in. They had found out about this lady who was like, had like 40 cats and like a dozen dogs and all these animals. And in Corpus Christi city limits, you're allowed to have 6 pets. Okay. Not like 6 dogs and 6 cats, like 6 pets, like total. And so animal control had gone in to confiscate those animals from her, and they found Jackson. She was hiding him, and she had found him as a baby and raised him to be a pet and a cat. And so they took him from her, but he was way too domesticated to be released. And so that's when the decision was made to keep him as an education animal. I mean, he is like the epitome of a princess. Like, so possums use their tail like for, you know, stability and stuff. They'll wrap it around things to hold on. And like I can put my finger in his tail, and he like barely even wraps it around me. Like, he doesn't know how to use his tail at all. So his chances of survival would be very, very minimum in the wild, which is why we decided to keep him. So.
All right, cool. Yeah, I always wondered, because I see you with pictures of him, and I was like, well, if you guys don't do mammal rescue, like, why do you have a possum? But
yeah, because like, and I feel like having possums as pets has become like a fad, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I see a lot of Facebook stuff and Instagram stuff about it, but they're wild animals. You can't just take an animal out of the wild and make it a pet. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
And it is illegal. Just because they're possums, they are protected. So that was the instance there. He was confiscated.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see here. Let's shift gears and go back to like to Cape Ann Whale Watch. So this year, me seeing firsthand the operation, like the only thing I feel like I haven't gotten a chance to see when it's full-fledged is the intern program. And I did talk a little bit about promoting the intern program in previous episodes before COVID kind of changed the game plan. But like we still have previous interns coming to help us on the boat, which is always nice to have them help do the data. But on a normal year, like, what does it look like? It looks like you guys do lots of fun things.
Yeah, so on a normal season, I have like 4 to 5 interns per trip. And, or like, I guess I should say 3 to 5. So anyway, we run like a full education program because we carry in a non-COVID year 260 passengers. And I just feel like sometimes when you get a boat that big, like you lose some of the like personal interaction, you know what I mean? So that's what I use the interns for. So they're divided into like 3 different jobs, right? So education on the way out to see the whales, because it typically takes us about an hour at least to get out to the area where the whales are. And then data collection while we're on whales, and then education on the way in. So on the way out to see the whales, it's all like super biology focused and just like kind of basics, right? So we have baleen and teeth. So they'll walk around and talk about how baleen works. And then we have like a model of Stellwag and Bank. So that way everybody can learn like why the whales are here. And it's like cool to see like the visual representation of the slope as you explain the upwelling and stuff like that, you know? So, and then we have like a model of a humpback whale. And so we'll talk about like basic humpback whale stuff, like with pictures. So you'll like show them pictures and be like, oh, what do you think this is? You know, looking at the whale's body. So we can talk about things that I sometimes talk about on the microphone, but sometimes don't have enough time to. So like tubercles and blowholes and flippers and barnacles and pleats and like all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool. So those are some of the things we talk about on the way out. And then they collect data during the whale watch. So qualitative and quantitative behavioral data. I have an intern camera, so one of them is in charge of taking photos. That way they can improve their photo identification skills. So a lot of times, like, even if I have a whale that I know, like, I'll let them identify it so they get familiar with that process and stuff like that. And then when I have enough interns, they also do plankton tows, which is really fun. And so then on the way back in, if we did a plankton tow, we have little discovery scopes that will walk around and show everybody like plankton samples so they can see what's going on in the water. And then it's really conservation focused after that. So we talk a lot about marine debris and entanglements and stuff like that. We usually have a bunch of toys that we'll put out on the top deck for the kiddos to play with on the way back in, and teach through learning and stuff like that. So we did an activity the past like 3 years where we have reusable bags that are like blank. And we have a bunch of fabric markers. So they can buy a bag for $2 and like draw on them and decorate them and stuff, which has been really fun. So lots of things. But yeah, it's been weird, like, because I'm used to that kind of interaction with the passengers. So it's been weird this year, like trying to figure out, I don't know, I just don't feel like I can even approach most people with them not being weird. And so I was originally not going to do any education at all, but I think now doing the Baleen and like a couple big talks where we're socially distant from groups and just approaching them if they have questions is a good way to go about it. But yeah, it's a little bit different than a normal season. So it's been an adjustment for sure.
Yeah, it looks like sometimes you guys also would take field trips, like to...
Yeah, so I like to, I don't know, I got so much out of my internship that I just want them to get as much out of it as well. So like we've gone to the New Bedford Whaling Museum every year with the interns, and the Center for Coastal Studies down in Provincetown. I'll usually take them there, and then we would go up to like movie screenings. So Blue Ocean Society usually worked with the Seacoast Science Center in New Hampshire to do movie screenings, so we went to a couple of those, or like lectures at the New England Aquarium, or we did a couple beach cleanups, things like that. And then I also used to do like weekly meetings with them, to just like cover more in depth certain things and I don't know, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I hope, you know, we could get back to that someday, but
dude, yeah,
for now it's definitely a tough ask to bring interns up and
yeah, I had them lined up, and you know, they just had to take other opportunities, and because like I didn't even know if we were gonna run at one point, you know, and so I totally understood that and left the door open for them if they want to come back when things kind of settle down. But yeah. Can you hear Katlyn?
In the background, Jamie's dogs are having a bickering session.
They sound like they're outside.
Oh, could be.
I don't know. That's weird.
That's all right. Jamie has 2 adorable dogs, and when I come over to her house to have food, they both like basically get all up in my personal space because they're hoping to have a bite, but they're so polite that they won't take it from me. They're just very good at begging.
They're ridiculous. I don't ever really even feed in, so I don't understand why it has become a thing, but yeah.
They just see me as a sucker. They're like, oh, if we look cute enough, she'll give us pizza.
The only thing I super give in on is Calypso and the like coconut oils. Because I use coconut oil a lot, like after I get out of the shower. And so I swear to you, she hears the shower turn off and then she listens for the jar to open. And by the time I'm opening the jar, she's already sitting at my feet, just like, can I have coconut, please? They're funny. They're full of character.
Yes, definitely. So let's talk a little bit more about this year. So even though with coronavirus we weren't sure if things were going to be open, and then we have limited passenger load and not the normal education program, overall I feel like we're getting the best out of what we could have for this season.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect from this season, but I feel like the passengers for the most part have been like super great. And I feel like they're super approaching you, which is nice. Probably because you're around more than I am, but yeah, I feel like it's, you know, we're making do. And it was funny because like when we first started and I wasn't doing Baleen at all on deck and I was just doing it on the dock talk, like my interns were just kind of like, they didn't know what to do, you know? And so it was cool, like talking to them because like they missed doing that as much as like I did. And so they were the ones who were just like, is there a way that we can figure out how to do it? You know what I mean? And so it was like, I don't know, to me, it was really cool to have them be that excited about teaching and like missing that interaction with the passengers. Because I think for me, like, I see this all the time and I'm sure like hardly any passengers ever like believe me, but I mean, yeah, I obviously love whales a lot. And so, you know, like, I love my job because I get to spend time with them and stuff like that. But the passengers really do, like, make it or break it for me. Like, I love hearing how excited they are when they see the whales. And so I feel like we've had some really good passenger groups, like, especially the past, like, week or so, 2 weeks. And I'm sure that only sticks out because that's what's most relevant and fresh. But yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, and the whales this year have been close, which has also been super nice because
So nice.
because then, you know, just as people are, what I notice on deck is like I finished making my like rounds for engine room checks and cleaning, and then maybe have a few questions on deck, and people are it's like 30-40 minutes in the trip, people are starting to be like, when are we gonna get there? You know, they're starting to get antsy already, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, luckily it's not too much longer, but I say, you know, it could be over an hour just in case it is.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to be like, you said it was for only 15 more minutes. And it's like, well, they're wild animals.
Well, like, sometimes yes, but it's also sometimes no.
But like, for the most part, they've been an hour away or less, which is really nice.
Awesome. My first year in 2017, we were going 26 to 36 miles every single trip. So that means like we leave at 8:30 and 1:30, right? We were pulling into the dock at like 1 or 1:15, and then like getting all the 260 people off, cleaning the boat really quick, and putting 260 people back on. Like, it was wild. And so yeah, and it's cool because like last year the whales were relatively close too, but they were on southern Jeffrey's Ledge, which is, I don't know, one of my favorite places for them to settle in because it's just a really pretty coastal view. And so yeah, but having them on the northwest corner of Stellwagen Bank is awesome. And there's, for the most part, there's been days where it's kind of not a lot, but I feel like for most of the season there's been a good amount of whales there too, which is really exciting to see.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So I think I've said this before, like on other podcast episodes, but like, it's interesting that out here on the East Coast, especially the Gulf of Maine whales, like, you guys know them all. Like, they're easily identifiable, and they're very, their site fidelity is really high, so they're very regular out on the different feeding grounds. And so it's interesting to watch, like, the whales kind of gather around the bank for a few days, and then, like, different ones come in, other ones leave. Yeah. Someone shows up again, like, 3 weeks later. It's pretty cool to, like, have all that information.
Well, it's cool, like, when you're a crazy whale stalker like I am, and you've followed every whale watching page up and down the eastern seaboard. So, like, you know, I could have owl on Stellwagen Bank one day, and then 2 days later, Granite State in New Hampshire sees her on Jeffrey's Ledge. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's like cool to follow their patterns like that. And there are some whales who, like, when I saw owl on Stellwagen, I was just like, what are you doing down here? Like, I'm really excited, don't get me wrong, but like, you're usually further up north, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, it's cool. I love our whales.
Yeah, it's definitely just like a couple things about it are like totally different from the West Coast. I mean, one, when we're on the bank, it's like 90 feet deep, and we're like 12 to 15 miles offshore. I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, it's 90 feet deep outside of Monterey Harbor, so like, you know, it's wild. And then that the whales can be so far away, and like, it's still feasible to do that in a trip, because like, even though the Hurricane 2 is big, it's fast. Like, this is probably the fastest boat I've ever worked on. So there's just some things about it that's just like totally different. And then the temperature fluctuates a lot, like day to day, with the effects of the Gulf Stream and other storm systems. The swell can be like it's gonna be 8 feet tomorrow, and then Wednesday it's gonna be 2 feet. You're like, excuse me, what? Like,
I know.
How is that possible?
It's a wild area.
It's just like, it's so different from anything else that I've ever like worked in the ocean so far. So that part's been pretty fun to just like see the differences. But we have to go through your favorite whales list, because Jamie, I swear, like almost every day she's like, this is one of my favorite whales, and you're like,
hold your horses.
But the cool thing about the high site fidelity, the easily identified whales, the fact that like we have a catalog on the boat with like information about the whales, like allows you to build these relationships with these animals, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think like about watching our whales, that's one of my favorite things, is it's not only these relationships I develop with them, but it's passengers too. So like passengers will come out and they're like, so when I was 64 and I don't know why I just quoted the Beatles like that, but anyway, like I watched Across the Universe the other day, and that's like, I don't know, one of my favorite like subliminal things in Across the Universe. Anyways, so you know, like when I was in school, I went whale watching and I saw this whale called Fern. Like, is she still around? And I'm like, yeah, affirmative, she is. Like, she definitely is still around, you know. And I can like, it's cool when they remember the whales just as much as you do, and that's the coolest part, is it like gives you these memories associated with. I don't want them to just remember they saw a whale. I want them to remember that they saw Venom the whale or whatever.
Yeah, people definitely ask, like, people ask me on the boat too, like, oh, have you seen Salt? Oh, have you seen, a lot of people were asking about Colt this year, and I was like, Colt hasn't been seen for a while, but.
Yeah, Colt, they had one of my days off, like 1 or 2 years ago, I think. I've never met Colt. But
yeah, Nancy said that
Colt
he was a lot like Abyss this year. He was very friendly.
Very, very notoriously friendly whale. It's almost like you pull up on Colt, you recognize it's Colt, and then it's like, hi, I'm rolling over for 45 minutes and scratching my back on your boat, you know. Yeah.
So Jamie was allowed to have 10 favorite whales, but she actually only has 8.
I'm so glad you remember that, because you were just talking about how I say every whale is my favorite, and that is how this stemmed, right? Is like, we were out on Southern Jeffreys Ledge, and a lot of my favorites were hanging out in the same area. And so I would see like 3 or 4 of my favorite whales every day. That's incredible. And so I'd be like, oh yeah, this is another one of my and my crew members were giving me such a hard time. And they were like, you need to write a list. You say every whale is your favorite whale. And I was like, that's not true. It's just that a lot of my favorite whales are in the same area. And I couldn't even fill out the list, because it has to be something that, I don't know, sticks out to me. Dr. Pepper break.
She had to hydrate before she gives the list.
All right. Whale number 1, Fulcrum. She's actually tattooed on my back. I also have this really gut feeling that she has passed away, which is sad. She hasn't been seen in like 5 years. Fulcrum is one of my favorites just because, so I chose her as my tattoo when I was an intern, because when I told my mom I wanted a whale tattoo, she was like, that's fine, like it means a lot to you, just like try to put as much meaning into it as possible, right? So I like kept track of my first breach and the first whale that I saw and like all of this stuff. But Fulcrum was just this like incredible whale. Like we had so many good memories with her. We had her close to boat, like friendly, interacting with the boat. One day she was sleeping and like drifted into the bow of the boat. I saw her breaching, I saw her open mouth feeding. And on top of that, she's like what I consider a warrior whale. And as I go through my list, like you'll realize a lot of them are that, like have stories, you know. She was hit by a boat, so her back is all like, I don't know, jagged, like a stegosaurus. So yeah, so she's just, I think, has a really good story, and as a reminder as to like why I do what I do, you know. So that's Fulcrum. So she's my number 1 girl, but because she's passed away, I have like a number 1B. You know what I mean? Which is Spoon. The great almighty Spoon. I also have a tattoo for Spoon. It's literally a spoon. Spoon's a great whale. She's been seen since 1977. She's had 11 calves since we've been watching her. Her most previous one in 2018. I don't know how much
Whatever you want to tell. Spoon's a grandma. I mean, she's like an old lady whale. I don't know if we can say she's been documented to be a grandma, but she's definitely an old girl.
Yeah, she is. And I think the thing for me is like, I just think that she's incredible because like she sleeps a lot, a lot. And when she does, like she'll sleep right next to the boat. Like she doesn't care. Yeah. And so I just feel like she's very trusting. But even more so than that, like even if she's just sleeping, which is definitely what, like that's what she does, you know what I mean? Like, so even if she's just sleeping, she still manages to just put like the biggest smile on people's face. Like, and people are just always so excited to see her. because she's a whale. And then after I tell them more about how cool she is, then they're excited to meet Spoon. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know. I think that that's just how I try to live my life. Like, I just want people to always put smiles on people's faces, and no matter what it is that I'm doing, like if I'm just being an idiot or if I'm, I don't know, doing something
But she's
else.
also huge. Like, I finally saw her in the flesh, and wow, big.
Oh, you mean the time that you surprised me with her? Yeah, that was cool. No, so she's been documented to be like one of the largest whales in our population. And I need to find, I don't know where Ocean Alliance published this, but like I've heard like 3 different numbers from 3 different naturalists. One of them said that she was measured with a measuring tape at 52 feet, and then that she measured with the drone at 54 or something like that. But then I've also heard the same number in the 60s. So I would believe more the 60 range. Like, yeah.
So big.
Yeah, so I need to, maybe that's what I'll do on my next couple days off, since it seems like we're going to get more of those. Is just like, see if I can find that article. Oh,
but, yeah, she peck slapped, and like, I think I said under my breath, that looks like a windmill turbine blade.
Yeah, and no, I mean like,
whoa.
Her flippers are ginormous.
Yeah.
Ginormous. Her flippers are unreal. They're flipping great.
I will say I have one beef about Spoon, and that's because the marking on her tail does not look like a spoon.
You haven't drank enough beer yet.
That's what I'm saying. So, okay, so let's backtrack for a second. For the people that don't know this, how did whale naming used to go in the past? And how do you get some of these really creative names?
Okay, so first things first, we only like to use the same name once.
Yes.
And that's because it's not only just to like create that personal connection between the passengers and the whales, but it's for scientific studies. So if we had 2 spoons or 2 fulcrums or 2 bounces or whatever, then it would be rather confusing to know which one you're talking about. But if you just have one, then everybody knows the exact whale you're talking about. So I always have to lay that curtain. So whale naming used to be like all of the naturalists and researchers and scientists in the Eastern Seaboard who utilized the catalog and names, and they would all get together like and have like a physical party, and they would put the pictures of the whale tails on the wall, and then they would like do the voting and submission all there. But they would do it for like 6+ hours probably, you know what I mean? Like in those days when that was how it was done, like there were already always whales to be added to the catalog. And so you can imagine like the longer the night goes on, you know, you're naming more whales, you have to get more creative because you can only use the same name once, and then you're like drinking a lot of adult beverages, and so it kind of causes it to get a little bit more creative, you know what I mean? But I don't know, so the thing about Spoon is like, you'll have to put a picture of her tail up on your podcast or something so people can see what we're talking about. But like Spoon, when you look at her tail, it's like all black, and then on each side, she has like these like faint white marks. And I've had people tell me that the one on the left looks like what do you call that? Like the mouth of the spoon, the actual spoon part, not the handle, but like the scoop part. The scoop. Yeah. And so like I've looked at that marking and I'm like, yeah, okay. But then when you look, like when we name a whale, it's like whatever your eye is drawn to immediately. You know what I mean? Then that's the marking they're named after. And when you look at Spoon's tail, it's like that white mark right to the left of the center. You know what I mean? And yeah, it doesn't. And like if you just like look at it and you're like, yep, that's a spoon, then that's what it looks like. But if you start putting a lot of thought into it, then you're gonna be like, yeah, no, that's not.
Yeah, I think so. One day when you were talking about her, I stepped in the wheelhouse after I'd gotten a good picture of her fluke, and I zoomed it in and looked at it, and then I showed it to the captain and was like, "Is this the spoon?" He was like,
freaking out, being irate, just like, this does not look like a spoon.
Yeah, and then I walked out because Johnny and I discussed it for like a solid 5 minutes while you were talking, and I couldn't clearly identify the spoon. So then I came back out and was like, "This is not okay."
Yeah, but some of the whale names are like, what? You know? How does that doesn't look like a, I don't know, whatever it is.
But then some of them are really good, like,
yeah. Who? Which one?
Yeah, we saw her the other day, and that totally looks like a bird on her tail.
Yes. Another one that kind of named itself is Joy. She literally on the right-hand side of her fluke has a J, an O, and a Y.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Or like Geometry's a cool whale. He has like a mostly black tail, and on the left-hand side it's like a triangle and a square and like a weird polygon, you know? So, it's cool. I don't know. I love it.
Okay, so we've got your number one, who's probably deceased, Fulcrum. Your backup number one, who is Spoon, who's probably just going to live forever. Even though I do have really morbid dreams almost every winter about her passing away, and I usually get crying. So. Okay, so who's your official number two? Or just go down the list.
Yeah, I think that those are like the first two. But then everybody else is kind of fluid. Like, I don't think that there's necessarily an order. So you have Venom, and you have Owl, and Valley, Tornado, Etch-a-Sketch, Echo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all those whales have some intense scarring. Most of them anthropogenic, except for Echo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Etch-a-Sketch, it's more of a behavioral thing, why she's your favorite, right?
Yeah, yeah. Because she does really cool kick feeding, and I just think that she's a really cool whale.
Yeah.
I like her name. It's cool. I've played with Etch-a-Sketches a lot as a kid. I don't know that I did that. I actually remember playing more with light brights than Etch-a-Sketches, but anyway.
I played with both, but so Venom, that's an interesting story, and that's actually pretty cool that Nancy, who is one of our educators on board, posted like Venom's life story on the Cape Ann Whale Watch Facebook page. So if you scroll back through our posts on there, you can actually read the full story, because she is like missing part of her fluke, but she didn't always look like that. They have a pretty clear timeline of like her entanglement and like how she survived it, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, she's a warrior, and she still has given birth, you know, like, so still hanging in there.
Yeah, she has a calf this year, and so pretty
baby whale.
Huh?
I said it's a cute little baby whale.
Yeah, it has a really cool tail too.
Yeah.
Lots of stripe marks all over it.
Yeah.
And then Valley, you can see her like from a mile away because she has no dorsal fin.
Yeah. You're like, oh, yeah. She's cool though. She's a cool whale. I think I don't really know why she became a favorite, other than I just had some really cool encounters with her, like especially my first year on the water. Like, we had a lot of curious calves that year. And Valley and her calf were curious about the boat several times that year. And I think once you look at the eye of a whale, then it's like they're forever one of your favorites, you know? But yeah, she's a cool whale. And every time I see her, I just want to sing "Ain't No Mountain High, Ain't No Valley Low." Just like serenade her.
Jamie talks to the whales a lot.
I do. And they never respond, but it's okay.
Most of the time she does it off the microphone, but every once in a while she does it on the microphone.
Yeah, okay, so.
So let's see. I have another question and it like escaped my brain. Oh yeah, so we talked a little bit historically about how whale naming works, but how does it work now if it were to ever happen again, because it's been a while, but yeah, now what's the typical process?
From what I've been told, it's online. So the Center for Coastal Studies will put together like an album. Oh shoot.
Oh, the right whale naming.
The right whale naming, yeah. So they'll put together like an album, and then you can submit like what you think the name should be and why and what the marking's after. So submissions is open for, I don't know, a week or two, and then it closes and then it reopens for voting. And so basically the best name submission would win.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I hope someday they do it again. That'd be
fun. Me too. I've been in Naturals for 4 years and I haven't even gotten to name a whale yet. And I have some pretty good names up in here.
And we've definitely been watching whales this season that I think have earned their spot on like the to be named list. Right? Yeah. There's some unnamed whales from 2015 that have been around, especially one in particular. And then Echo's 2014 calf has been a regular out on the bank this year, so I feel like it's high time to name a few of them because I think they're going to stick around.
Yeah, I don't know why Echo's 2014 calf didn't. So the last whale naming they did was in 2016, and I don't know why that whale didn't get named because, like, I don't know, maybe they didn't see it much in 2015 or 16, but like I clearly remember seeing it on 2017 because it was like the naturalist from my intern year, Zach, had brought his family out, and his mom had been on multiple whale watches before and had never seen a breach. And we were down in Provincetown, and on our way home, we saw a whale breaching, so we stopped, and it was Echo's 2014 calf. And I got the sick picture of it. It was like parallel with the water. It was like it was levitating. Nice. It's really cool. So you know, it's a whale, and then I've watched it every season since then. So I don't know why it hasn't been on the board to be named, but
yeah, other whales that are the same age as it are named, like Spell.
Yeah, like we've been seeing a lot of 2014 calves this year, like Abyss and Sprinkles, and there was like two others that I thought of when I started making that list, and then now they've gone away from me. But
yeah, Sprinkles, Abyss, Spell,
yeah, 2014 to Wizard.
There's another one that we saw recently. I can't remember who it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it's pretty cool to have like those total histories of the whales, and then you can make like these big matrilines of whales as well, because you have animals like Salt who have been around for 45 years and has returned with 16 calves that have been documented every year, and that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, she's an amazing whale. Yeah, I don't know, whales are cool, man.
So let's talk a little bit about other not humpback whale things that you can see like out of Gloucester.
Okay, well, first of all, sometimes if you're really lucky, you get to see right whales.
Yeah.
And nothing really beats seeing a North Atlantic right whale. But if you want to see a right whale, honestly, a North Atlantic right whale, the best thing to do is like April or May and go down in Provincetown and just try to watch from the beaches, because even on a boat, we can't get close to them.
Yeah.
So usually I have enough time to point out that this is a right whale, say that we're not going over to it, and then like explain why we're not going over to it, and then we continue going. But yeah, right whales are pretty incredible. We see them more in the spring, every once in a while in the fall. I don't know what the spring was like, of course, because I wasn't on the water this spring, but the past 3 years on the water for me have included a lot of sei whales, which has been wild. We see fin whales semi-regularly, although we haven't seen them much at all this summer. Minke whales. That's most of the big whale species. And then harbor porpoise, Atlantic white-sided dolphins. They're the two most common toothed whales. And then like the next, still very uncommon, but like maybe a couple times in the fall we see are the common dolphins. And then on the water with me in my years, I've seen Rizzo's dolphins, pilot whales, and bottlenose up here. So growing up in Texas, like bottlenose dolphins, meh. But seeing bottlenose dolphins up here was like really, really cool. So yeah.
Have you only seen pilot whales that one time?
September 9th, 2012.
Oh, during your internship. That's right.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Well, yeah, we got to see Rizzo's dolphins this season. We have seen common dolphins a couple times. Yep. And there was a report of bottlenose dolphins, but they were much further south than we could have gone to. So.
Yeah. So.
It's been good so far.
Pretty exciting stuff. Yeah, especially because I feel like usually you see like the different species more in the fall, and like we saw the Rizzo's dolphins, I feel like kind of early. So it makes me really excited to see what the rest of the season is going to produce.
Yeah, whenever we get done with this hurricane. What's the name of this one? It's the T.
I don't know.
I just watched a report on it, but that's another thing that's,
You're my meteorologist, remember? I don't know anything. I literally will text, for everybody listening, I literally will text Katlyn and be like, what's the weather like today? Or what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? Whatever it is, that she looks at usually produces better results than my own.
Yeah, I was just watching the hurricane report this morning, but I forget what the name of the one that's coming up the eastern seaboard is, but it's headed for Canada, but it's making some nasty weather over here too, as it passes by. And that's something
a hurricane hitting Canada is wild.
I know, right? That's something that's new for me also, because like in Monterey, we definitely have had some of the roughest weather like that I've ever seen or ever operated on, but like we don't get hurricanes. So
oh yeah, hurricane.
And then like in Hawaii, I left before Douglas or whatever went through.
Yeah.
So
yeah, actually one is hitting like Corpus Christi right now. I think it's only like a category 1 or something. I don't really know.
It's the beta hurricane because they're already in the Greek alphabet and it's September.
Yeah, but one of my friends was just posting some videos of it being crazy and wild at her house. So I need to call and check on the Sea Life Center. Things to do today.
Well, the only other thing I wrote on my list is that we could briefly talk about all the marine mammals that we've seen together. I mean, we've talked about some of them, but you and I have actually been together for some pretty rare animal sightings.
Hawaiian monk seal!
Yeah, we saw a Hawaiian monk seal together at Ho'okipa this winter in Maui. So that was pretty amazing. We went for turtles, and then the lifeguard was like, stay away from the monk seal. And we were like, what? And it was behind us on the beach. So that was amazing.
And I took you to see North Atlantic right whales.
Yes, and we saw North Atlantic right whales together from the beach also.
Yeah.
We saw them probably closer from shore than we could have ever seen them from the boat.
Yeah. We tried like 3 days to find them.
Yeah.
We finally did.
And it was raining, and it was freezing cold, but it was so worth it.
Yeah, very worth it.
And then we've seen sei whales, fin whales, minke whales, humpback whales.
Oh, yeah, you got to see sei whales when you were up there last spring.
Yep.
I think we just had one, but I did think it lunched.
It did. Yeah, we got to see it lunch feed, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then we saw a dead whale together.
Oh, yeah.
Vector, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, what did you see when you came to Monterey? Did we see Rizzos or just humpbacks?
When I was with you, when we got our tattoo.
Yeah.
We saw Rizzos. We didn't see lags, but we saw Rizzos.
Yeah.
And humpbacks. And, yeah, I think that was it.
I think the funniest thing about the humpbacks was they were so close to shore. It was like in the fall when they kind of come inside the bay and they feed right off of like the sand dunes and Seaside Marina. And you were like, you have land in the background of all of your photos.
I took some of the coolest photos of like whale tail and dune. And I'm like, what? That's why I like watching whales off of Jeffrey's Ledge, like in our areas, because you get like the coastal look behind it. Like I love taking pictures in front of Thatcher Island, which is the twin lighthouses off of Rockport. But then remember that one time, where did we go? Moss Landing, where we saw a bunch of stuff from shore. We saw otters.
Yeah. Saw otters, bottlenose dolphins, California sea lions, and humpback whales.
Yeah.
All from shore.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. Oh, and we saw the red-footed booby.
Oh, yeah.
Up in, at Seacliff State Park.
Yeah.
That was a good day.
Yeah, got ice cream with, like, something on it. Like
marshmallow fluff. Toasted marshmallow.
That was super
at
yummy.
Penny Ice Creamery.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, and when I went out one of the days with Eric, when I came to visit you, there was a stellar sea lion, a couple stellar.
Oh yeah, on the buoy.
Well, yeah, that was the first time I had seen them. So yeah.
So we checked off a lot of animal sightings together.
Yeah.
As whale adventure buddies.
Yeah. Hopefully COVID ends soon so that we can continue.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to go whale watching again up in Canada and, you know.
Yeah, I want to go up to Cape Breton and see the pilot whales so bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
But we'll see. I mean, we're just going to have to ride it out until it's over. But I'm glad we've been able to get out this season and been able to take people out to see whales. It's always been nice.
And I think it's like, You're gonna think that this is so cheesy, but like it really has been fun like having you here this summer. You know what I mean? Because like I don't know, it's just as first of all, it's the most time we've ever spent together ever. So like it's been cool. And it's just I don't know, it's just nice having you like I don't know, around all the time on board to make fun of everything I'm saying on the microphone. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely
Question for you.
Huh?
I have a question for you.
What?
What has been one of my favorite jokes I've told on the microphone this year?
Oh my god. Jamie's a fan of puns. So if you follow me or her on Instagram, you'll see every once in a while a video where I'm trying to take a video of the whale and she sticks her head in there. Like we saw A+, and she leans her head over. This is an A+ encounter. Or are you in denial about seeing this whale?
Watching Niall the humpback whale. Yeah, it's a good one.
I know you find it annoying sometimes, but I think it's really cute when Johnny gets on the microphone, the captain. He takes the extra microphone. He's like, "Hey, Jamie."
Oh, the decaffeinated whale?
Yeah. He's like, "What do you call a whale that just had a calf?"
A decaffeinated whale. My favorite thing about letting Captain Johnny talk on the microphone is then I always like apologize that he talked on the microphone after he gets off. Or like he gets so butthurt when I talk about on the microphone how much I like whale watching with you, and then he's like, I thought I was your best friend.
Yeah, sometimes Jamie tells the passengers that we're best friends, and then Johnny gets sad because he's like, I thought I was your best friend. The flipper one that you say that one every day. So Jamie talks about the structure of the flippers, and she talks about how it's all the same bones as us, except they don't have a thumb, so they can't give you thumbs up for a job well done.
That one's one of my favorite. I tell it every day, every trip, and it still makes me laugh sometimes.
And then at the end of the trip, when the whale flukes for the last time, she's like, and that's the tail end of our trip.
Yeah. You know what else I've started doing at the end of my wrap up too is I'm like, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, whatever it entails.
Yeah, I was like, I think.
And nobody ever picks it up, and I'm just like, oh gosh, darn it.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Or what about the day? I don't even know why I said this. When I just remember looking over at you like in disbelief myself that these words had just come out of my mouth, only to find you like dying laughing when I was talking about how the whales like to keep me on my toes.
Oh,
that's where I wear sandals. What does that even mean? Like what?
I think that's why I was laughing. I was like, what did she just say on the microphone?
Oh God. If there's anything about who I am as a naturalist, it's usually pretty entertaining. So
yeah, you just never quite know what she's
entertaining and educational.
But it's like striking that balance, right? Like walking the line of like how much of it is entertainment and how much of it is actually like educational, which is always good. No, I feel like you don't ever cross it, you know, like I feel like you do a good job of like always having a good, clear, like you're giving scientific information, but also like keeping it light and fun.
Yeah.
And we have a pretty fun crew this year, which is something I also thoroughly enjoy.
Me too. It's been nice.
So on a normal year, I would invite you all to come see us before the end of the season at the end of October, but the state of Massachusetts only allows people to come from 7 states right now, unless you want to go through a whole like COVID testing regimen and all that stuff. So as much as I would love to see you all out here, you know, do the most prudent thing you can. If you can come and make it work and follow the protocols, great. But if you can't, we plan to be whale watching together again, hopefully next summer. So
yeah.
Hopefully.
Sebastian said, I was like, you're not going to like leave next year, right?
That's not my plan. My intention is to be again with Cape Ann Whale Watch next summer, as long as, you know, the bosses will have me and and there's a full season, hopefully next year. I'd like to work the spring because I feel like I missed out on that part this year, but
yeah, the spring is usually fun.
But, you know, you just got to roll with the punches and You ready?
At least for whale watching, you know, like I just keep thinking about that, like it could be so much worse.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I could still be in my parents' basement.
And here you are. Let's check find my friends. 14 miles away from me, I think, maybe.
Something like that. Jamie doesn't actually live in Gloucester. I do. I just walk to the whale watch every day, but Jamie commutes a little bit.
Yeah,
so.
it's not bad.
Yeah, make it work. Well, thanks for being on my podcast.
Thanks for letting me be on your podcast.
And Eric and Slater would have been here if they could, but Eric is working a whale watch trip right now, and Slater is actually out at sea running as an overnight captain for an offshore charter. So he is literally out of cell range, and Eric is got his hands full with passengers in Monterey, California. So they wanted to be here, but we're just trying to work around our schedule and being 3 hours ahead, and we'll get them back on here eventually. They're still seeing whales and dolphins and being on the ocean, so I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
And since we're not working for like 5 days in a row, I figured you and I should do something.
I feel so honored. Here's to many more podcasts together.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. If you don't follow us on Instagram or Facebook, you can definitely check things out on there. I will start posting on there again. And thank you again to our Patreon supporters through everything, through COVID and crazy weather and moving across the country and all of that. We really, really appreciate your continued support of the podcast. If you're interested in getting in behind the scenes content, which may include whale selfies of me, you can check us out on Whale Nerds. So it's patreon.com/whale nerds. And you can get behind the scenes content there, including like the video recording of our episodes, not just the audio, and sometimes photos and sometimes little GIFs. So definitely check it out on there, or just send us a message if you're interested. You can find us on Instagram at Whale Nerds or on Facebook at Whale Nerds. So thanks so much for listening, and have a good rest of your day. And we'll talk
whatever it entails for you.
Whatever it entails for you, as Jamie said.